Welcome back to Cossy Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. The Premier League is back. Arsenal are back as well. In this video, we're going to understand how Mikel Arteta is planning to make Arsenal unstoppable. How Arsenal will set up this season under Mikel Arteta. It's going to be a very different season. Different changes. We are seeing already Declan Rice, Kai Havertz and Jurrien Timber already integrating into the squad. So it means some players will have to actually drop out of the starting 11. Arsenal have also lost a key player in Granit Xhaka in the summer. So how will Arsenal replace him, and what system will Mikel Arteta go for to make Arsenal champions in a very, very long time? Hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast as well. I'm going to make two season predictions, bold predictions. Number one, Thomas Partey is not going to be a regular player as he was last campaign. And number two, Kai Havertz will have more goal involvements than Granit Xhaka last campaign. Xhaka had 14. Kai Havertz will have more goals and assists than Granit Xhaka in this season. Hit the like button and let's get into how Arsenal will set up this campaign. Now, last season we know Mikel actually loved to set up in a 4-2-3-1 with Xhaka and Partey in midfield, Zinchenko and White at fullback, Gabi and Saliba at centre back, Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka and Gabriel Jesus up top. That is how Arsenal set up. But of course, this system would change into a 3-2-5 in attack, as Granit Xhaka and Martin Odegaard really joined up to the attack. Thomas Partey was in midfield, Alexander Zinchenko inverting in midfield from left back, and that means that Gabi had to stretch out, and Saliba at centre back, and White in that back three. That is how Arsenal set up in attack, and predominantly when Arsenal were in possession, when Arsenal were having the ball, this is what you would see. You would see Granit Xhaka literally starting high up the pitch, almost much of the time, and Alexander Zinchenko inverting into midfield. So literally what this gave us, and what actually this was all about with Mikel Arteta, he wanted Aaron Ramsdale to play this ball into Alexander Zinchenko, because Zinchenko has got a very good ability to keep the ball, but also a very good ability to pass the ball around. So he was more of a cornerstone of possession for Arsenal, but also he was the most player with passes forward in that Arsenal team. He passed more passes into the final third, and he was the most player who made forward passes in the team. Apart from the likes of Gabriel, White and Saliba, who literally always passed the ball into Alexander Zinchenko and Partey, in that team, no one passed the ball more than Alexander Zinchenko going forward. So Zinchenko is now an injury-prone player, but last campaign you used to see this kind of passes into Odegaard, into Gabriel Martinelli, and at times into Gabriel Jesus. This season, it's going to be different. This season is going to be much better, and I think a little bit much compact as well. So what we saw last campaign as well is that Alexander Zinchenko, apart from being very, very inverted, he also played very high up the pitch. He played like a cheat code. He was playing in a free role for Mikel Arteta. Like, you could see him on the left-hand side. You could see him, on the right-hand side as well. So just to give you an example, in the Everton game at the Emirates Stadium last campaign, Saka scored the second goal. That goal was created by Alexander Zinchenko in midfield, but on the left-hand side. And yet, Alexander Zinchenko also created a lot of, on the right-hand side, Zinchenko also created a couple of goals and a couple of chances on the left-hand side where he was overlapping with Gabriel Martinelli. So, last season, I think it is safe to say that Arsenal's game was about Zinchenko inverting into midfield, forming a partnership with Thomas Partey, and allowing Xhaka and Odegaard to go forward. The other thing we saw last campaign with Mikel Arteta is that Saka and Gabriel Martinelli always stayed out wide. So we had two wide players that gave us that kind of width, stretching the pitch, and that opened up a couple of passing lanes and a couple of running options inside. So Odegaard could actually occupy the spaces here, and Xhaka as well could occupy these spaces here. Like you'd see, it comes from the fact that Martinelli and Saka are always wide, therefore they can stretch the pitch as wide and as big as possible. The other thing you saw is to number 8, Granit Xhaka assumed a new role in that Arsenal team last season. Xhaka played as a left number 8. So because he played into, he was set up into a double pivot, and Alexander Zinchenko would come into these areas here and take up his space, right? So Zinchenko played around here in these zones, and took up all that space that Xhaka literally had to play in. Xhaka had to push a little bit further forward, and contrary to what we will see this campaign, Xhaka would start the game further forward and then drop into defensive positions when Arsenal needed him. The sense behind that is that we had a player in Alexander Zinchenko who can actually quickly progress the ball into those final areas of the pitch. So that's going to be very, very crucial in terms of how Arsenal set up this season. It's going to be a very, very huge difference. In defense, when Arsenal didn't have the ball, it was more like a very usual shape. The centre backs played together. Ben White at right back, Zinchenko came back at left back. But of course, we saw the support of Saka and Gabriel Martinelli supporting White and Alexander Zinchenko. I think we will see that a lot of the time this campaign. We saw Gabriel Martinelli helping out Zinchenko, and we saw Saka dropping deep a little bit. Doesn't want to defend a lot, but we saw him drop in those defensive positions to help out Benjamin White. Partey dropped into in between Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba a lot of the time, and that actually created a wall in front of this defense, with Odegaard dropping back, Gabriel Jesus dropping back, and Granit Xhaka dropping back as well. So you had Arsenal's you had about three phases of defense. You had Gabriel Jesus around here, and Martin Odegaard, who actually pushed from these positions to press. And then you had the likes of Granit Xhaka, Saka, tucking a little bit forward and also inside, but trying to make sure that the wide areas are really well protected. And that is why Arsenal, that last campaign, they looked a little bit compact. We looked a little bit, stronger and also together and very, very cohesive. But how will we line up and set up this campaign? There are going to be a couple of changes. Number one, Mikel Arteta is seeking to address the injury-prone nature of Alexander Zinchenko. So Zinchenko will be out of the team most of the time, and we will see the introduction of Jurrien Timber from Ajax. We've already seen him play at left back. I think Mikel Arteta is being cautious here. He wants a player who can also give you that option to play a back three, especially when White gets into these deeper areas. I think Arsenal can play a back three with Timber, Gabriel, and William Saliba. We are also going to see the replacement of Granit Xhaka in this system, who has gone to Leverkusen, of course. Now, there are a couple of options that Mikel Arteta has actually tried out in the new season and also in pre-season. Xhaka has been replaced by two players. Number one is Leandro Trossard, and number two is Kai Havertz. However, I still expect to see Leandro Trossard play a lot of football this campaign for Arsenal. So the shape is going to stay pretty much the same. Two number 8s, Trossard and Odegaard. You will have a single pivot. You'll have Gabriel Martinelli, on the left-hand side, wide, Saka wide on the right-hand side, and that back four, which actually is going to remain the same. The other change we will see in this campaign is going to be Thomas Partey. I think he will be replaced by Declan Rice, and I'm going to explain my reasons why Rice can actually replace Thomas Partey, and Arsenal will be all right, courtesy of the availability of Jurrien Timber. So this is how Arsenal will predominantly line up. But of course, in cases where you don't have Gabriel Jesus on the pitch, just like he's injured for around 4 weeks, Arsenal would then have to play Kai Havertz in these positions. So this is how Arsenal predominantly are going to set up this campaign. This is how we will set up most of the times. Gabriel Jesus will be coming into the team when he's fit, always, to be our number 9, and I'm going to use him. And of course, we'll see Kai Havertz a lot of the time play and be interchanged with Leandro Trossard, and Trossard, of course, will be deputizing Gabriel Martinelli, of course. But in this, for purposes of this video, let us use Kai Havertz because he's going to be a key player in this Arsenal side. So let us first explain Arsenal in possession. Why have we gone with Timber and Rice and then dropping Thomas Partey? So the reason is very clear. Last season, Xhaka played in this space where Kai Havertz is, and that means that we played a double pivot of Xhaka and Partey, like I've said. However, we are not going to play a double pivot with Declan Rice. We're not going to play we are not going to play two players at the base of the midfield, one going up the pitch and the other staying. We are going to play with one player. Jurrien Timber is going to give us the vibes, is going to give us the inverted role of Alexander Zinchenko. So you expect Arsenal to still shuffle at the back into a back three, Gabi, Saliba, and White. So Timber shuffling into midfield, or Timber getting into midfield, it will open up a lot of chances for Declan Rice to go further forward. It's going to allow Arsenal to go a little bit further forward. So Kai Havertz, it means that Kai Havertz won't have those defensive responsibilities that Xhaka had last campaign. Rice, since he's tilted to the left, is going to be allowing Kai Havertz to play in between Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli as Rice pushes into those areas. So you expect to see something like this. It's going to be more of a passing combination between Rice, Martinelli, and Kai Havertz. Because on the left-hand side, that is the partnership that we are looking to create. On the right-hand side, it's going to be Odegaard giving you that role for Declan Rice. So Odegaard coming in between Gabriel Jesus, who actually will tilt towards the right-hand side, probably, and then Saka as well. So we might see a lot of partnerships like this in this season. Now, why Arsenal are okay and why where the change is that Thomas Partey, who actually is going to be replaced by Rice, is going to be replaced by Jurrien Timber. Timber is happy to be at the best of the midfield. He's a very good centre-back, and he's a very good right-back, and he's a very good left-back, but he's also a very good defensive midfielder. So what he allows Arsenal to do, and what he would allow Mikel Arteta to do, first and foremost, is to free up our number 6, free up Declan Rice, and then he will have all this time to go back up Saka and Havertz, back up Odegaard, and form passing triangles, and also arrive in the penalty area a lot of the time when he's actually going to be needed. So you're going to see a lot of the time you will see Timber and Rice inverting as the pivot, a back three, Gabriel Martinelli, Kai Havertz in that left 8 position, which is actually very, very amazing for me. And then Odegaard as well. But the other thing you're going to see, apart from how Arsenal are going to be inverting with Timber, the other thing you're going to see is Kai Havertz not defending a lot. So because Odegaard loves to drop deeper into these areas and pick up the ball, which is actually something I don't really have a problem with. So because he loves to be in these areas, he loves to start here. Kai Havertz then can start here. It's a very, very key difference from how we played last campaign. So the way we played last campaign is this. Xhaka started from this point, going forward, and when Arsenal were not in possession, Xhaka then dropped deep. So this season, when Arsenal are out of possession, Kai Havertz is not going to drop deep into in between Gabriel Magalhaes and Saliba. He's actually going to stay further forward with Gabriel Jesus. So he's going to be one of the two pressing players. So he's going to be like a support striker, especially when Arsenal are not in possession. Then you have the likes of Gabriel Martinelli dropping a little bit back, and of course Saka dropping a little bit back as well, just to make sure that we are in shape, just to make sure that Arsenal do not get exposed a lot out of possession. Key roles in this system. The key role, number 1, is Kai Havertz. So most people have been asking themselves, why are we signing Kai Havertz, and why is Kai Havertz a key player for this Arsenal system? This is the reason. So because Granit Xhaka last season was getting into these areas a lot of the time, but he didn't actually get to score or create a lot of chances, Kai Havertz is a much better player in getting to the penalty area and scoring goals. So Kai Havertz has to work. There is no question here. There is no excuse. Kai Havertz as a signing, as a deal, it has to work. Otherwise, Mikel Arteta can also play Leandro Trossard in this position, like I said. And again, it's going to be the same role, getting into the penalty area and scoring goals. The difference between Kai Havertz and Leandro Trossard is easy. Kai Havertz is a more specific player, needs very small spaces, and he really understands specific roles. Leandro Trossard is more like a ball player, loves dribbling and loves to be on the ball a lot of the time. So I think it's going to be Kai Havertz playing in this role here, unless when Gabriel Jesus is injured and Kai Havertz plays as the 9, and therefore Trossard can actually be introduced. The other thing you'll see a lot of the time, and one other very important role, is going to be the Jurrien Timber role. The better he actually invites into this midfield, the more Declan Rice will actually go forward. And that means that Arsenal can attack with more than 5 players. So last campaign we attacked with 5, but this season we could see Arsenal attack with 6 players. So you'll have Martinelli, Trossard arriving in the penalty area, Odegaard as well arriving in the penalty area, Saka and maybe Havertz or Jesus. Those are 5 players. But because Jurrien Timber is going to be our defensive midfielder, Rice can have all the time to travel from these deeper areas and join the attack. Another bold prediction: Rice will have more than 4 goals that he had last campaign at West Ham. I expect him to score 6 and above goals for Arsenal this campaign. So one thing you'll see with Declan Rice, and the difference between Rice and Xhaka in this system, Rice is going to start off deep. So you will see him inverting a lot of the time at left back, like we saw him against Man City, especially when Jurrien Timber occupies the midfield areas. When Timber is playing around here, in these areas here, you expect Rice to be disciplined, stay deep, and wait for his chance to progress further up the pitch. So when Arsenal are in position, Rice will be arriving later than Xhaka did last campaign, and that means the likes of Gabi, Saliba, and White will also be able to push a little bit further forward. Now, the question was last campaign: how do we get the better of big clubs? How do we get the better of Liverpool, Manchester City, and all these other clubs? The answer is very easy. Mikel Arteta has decided to go big and physical. You look at Timber, you look at Rice, you look at Saliba. We've decided to add some big cogs in the machine, and I know it will actually work out. So that is how we expect Arsenal to set up a lot of the time this campaign. Of course, we have a couple of options, and we will see a lot of in-game tactics and also tactics for throughout the season. Hit the like button. Let me know how you think Arsenal will set up and how you want Arsenal to set up, and I'll speak to you right in the next one.